Ranting Ron here. This is about the basics of the Bible. And I'm focusing on the Old Testament because that's the big portion. The New Testament is kind of easy. It's all done in the same period, Jesus Christ, in his life and then their teachings. But anyway, I can do that another video. This is about the Old Testament. The world, the public school system, the universities will not teach you about the Bible. They will not. Evil. Evil. Okay? Satanist. Just, it's just frustrating because when you're in public school, you're learning about ancient history. You learn about the Syrians, the Babylonians, the Romans, the Greeks, whatever. But you never learn about Israel. Why? They're huge in ancient history, and it's really frustrating. And the reason they do that is because they don't want you to, because Israel's God's promise to the world. Really, Israel is God's revelation to the world that He exists. God is real. God is real. I like saying that. God is real because it's the whole book of the Old Testament, and the whole thing about the concept of Israel is that God created Israel, or the tribe that chose the weakest tribe. It says in the Bible, I chose you because you're the weakest to prove to the world that I am real. God is real. And that's kind of the story of the Old Testament. And you can see today, like the UN, more than half of all their, like, the United Nations, half of all their declarations of you did bad things, whatever, the punishment thing, the council on whatever, human rights or whatever, they've all attacked Israel. Israel's like the smallest little sliver of land, and it's surrounded by all this Islamic regimes that have no freedom, terrorism and slavery, and yet the United Nations and the world hates Israel. And the Bible says that in the future you will be surrounded, you'll be hated because of me, because of God, because God is real. God is real, man. Anyway, so that's what the Old Testament is about too. So let's just get to the basics here. And because it's really hard to read the Bible. The Bible is so big, and the pages are so thin. Actually, the only reason this is big is because it's a study Bible, and I recommend getting a study Bible. I have the Henry Morris Study Bible. John MacArthur has one. There's other ones, and I got the King James version, but the King James version is the like the collegiate level reading. It's fun, it's medieval, it's cool. But I would get, if you wanted to do ESV or NASB. ESV is English Standard Version, so from England. The NASB is North American Standard Bible or something like that. So that's the other translation that's really good. And this is supposed to be like the pinnacle of whatever. And also, study Bibles are different from regular Bibles in the sense that they have so they have the Bible. They have the Bible here, but then they have like these little annotations, these little, and they're very like, they reference history, reference facts, reference science. The Henry Morris is good because it's got all the creation stuff in it as well. And, so there's just stuff that references what they're talking about. Because the Old Testament, and I was just thinking about this too, people say that the Bible is fairy tales, right? And I was like, man, yeah, that's such a great mocking, scoffing little thing. And every atheist has said it to me like it's an original thing that they thought up. That it's a book of fairy tales. And I'm like, when the Grimm brothers and Aesop fables and all that, when they created their fairy tales, they knew how the way they learned how to write was because of the Bible, because of Genesis. Like when you read Genesis and the stories in Genesis in the beginning and Exodus, it sounds like a fairy tale the way it's written. But I'm like, wait a minute, this was written way before those fairy tales were collated and put together. Aesop, I believe, made the animal fairy tales. I'm assuming both him and the Grimm brothers, which are the famous fairy tales, they collected them from the pagans around them, right? But they wrote them, like they wrote them based on their tales and stuff, and so they wrote them in a form because they were obviously very, they were trained. Everyone back then that was trained to write was obviously trained through the church, through the Dark Ages. So when they say the book, like it's like fairy tales, well, actually, fairy tales is written like the Bible, like the way that's how we learn to write. This is really how we learn to write too. Our Western culture, Western literature, is based off of the Bible. Shakespeare, I mean, he quotes Bible the most. So, having said that, I'm going to give you like a timeline just so you can. I'm going to go down a little bit further. I like doing timelines, and I'm getting a little warm up here. Timeline. This is the ancient history, so up to JC, Jesus Christ right here, 0. And then this is not 6,000, 4,000 BC. Okay, Noah's flood is right. I'm going to kind of scrunch it just because I need the room, I think. 2500 BC? Around 24. Noah? So what I want to do is explain how the Bible, the Old Testament works, and how you like get a grasp on it, especially if you're new and you're trying to read the Bible. So here's the let's see, Genesis is here. I'm trying to think where I'm going to have room. Let me move this whole thing up. I'm just going to write at the bottom then. Okay, Genesis is here, right? Talks about Adam and Eve. And goes all the way to Moses, which is Moses is like 1500 BC. So here, Moses. Okay. Then Exodus starts here, and then this is where, him and his priest leaders, they all work on these all their books too. And what's great about these books is in the start of Israel is that it's all about like creating a society. Man, in Exodus, Moses' father-in-law comes and visits him, and Moses is all busy, or tired because he's judging all the million Hebrews that are freed slaves. And the father-in-law is like, you should set up a judge system, like a republic. He describes to him how to set up a republic so that he doesn't have to judge everyone. He can delegate, in the different groups and different leaders and da-da-da. So and then they pick amongst them the ones that represent each group, so that they can be the judges with all the issues. So it's like totally setting up, and this is way before Greece, and it's not a democracy, by the way, it's a republic that they describe. Dudo, well, that's fine, Dudo. So, and it talks about military, it talks about crafts, it talks about, when you get into some of these Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, you might get a little bored. It's tough. But you got to think about it like, oh, this is great for historians. This is great for craftsmen. This is great for the military to understand. This is great for like policymakers. This one is good for police and law and order. This one's, you know what I mean? This is interesting for family. So each of all the things in there are written for different kinds of people. So you might be bored with that. Genealogy. That's when it has genealogies in there. That's amazing because that historians absolutely need genealogies to go backwards. Because remember, there's no time frame here. The only time frame they have is genealogy. When a person exists, is born, that's like 0, and then when they have their first son, because they do it through sons, that's a time frame that they can count and just name that person here to here, and that's it. That's all they have. They don't have a past or a future to go off of, and so genealogies really help because then those genealogies connect with other societies, and then all the way up to us. Anyway, that's an amazing thing about the Bible too. It's everything in it is like historical. The locations are real. Fairy tale. And yeah, there's a lot of supernatural things in there, but it certainly understands that those things are supernatural. For instance, Creation Week, right? Here is obviously Creation Week, right, where he makes everything in 6 days, okay, and rests 1 day. I, on the other hand, would make everything in 1 day and rest for 6 days. That's just me. Anyway, so God made everything in 6 days, and that is a supernatural event. Okay, it says in the Bible it's a supernatural event. It says like he did this, and it was good. But and it even explains that now you have day cycles and days and expectations. You will have, you know what I mean? So it's supernatural. Like, guess what else is supernatural? Like creation. Guess what else is supernatural? The Big Bang. Yeah, the Big Bang is supernatural. Can't prove it. Can't see it. It's magical. Anyway, so it was funny because those atheists were saying, yeah, I don't believe in this creation and this thing, and like, well, what do you? Because it's supernatural. He says, I don't believe in these supernatural things like that. And what do you believe? Well, I believe in the Big Bang created everything. Yeah. I mean, do you? No, you don't get it. The irony. Oh, the irony. Okay. Anyway, supernatural. So that's a supernatural event. Absolutely. Even the Bible says it is. But then. And so is the flood, obviously. That's supernatural too. But, so this is Genesis and goes to Exodus. So, I mean, this is all like kind of fairy tale. But remember, like I said, fairy tales, the writers of the fairy tales copied Genesis. Fairy tale like, or fairy tales are like this. Whatever. Fairy tale, I don't care. I am in the Lord. Okay, so fairy tale like. Okay, so then Exodus is here. This is around 1500 BC, I think. I'm not a trivia guy. I forget the exact numbers and stuff. Okay, so that's all this right here, right? Boom. Okay, the first 5 books, and very historical, very interesting. There's some cool stuff in there, and a lot of boring stuff. But you just want to. Wow, this is how they figure out a society. Um, and so here's I can relate. Like this is Egypt. I'm using a really big 4K TV, so it's kind of slow. The writing, the delay. My computer's like 5 years old. It was awesome back 5 years ago, and it's still awesome today. But yeah, I'm starting to go 4K, and that's like, honey, is it my? Do I even deserve? Okay, so Moses. Now we got Joshua, which he's like the cool warrior dude. Okay, so I'm gonna go through this stuff now. All right. So this stuff here, the historical writing, is really the birth of Israel, which is in this period. And then Israel ends around here, like right before Alexander the Great. Alex, okay, the OG, original gangsta. Okay, so this is where Israel ends. And then so all this historical writing fits into this period. Okay, and that's what's going on here. Now, what's really cool about this is that and historians and linguists in the Bible, this is the brilliance of this, is that the Kings here, the Kings Chronicles, and they all cross-reference each other. They're all like repeats. Like 1 and 2 Kings and then 1 and 2 Chronicles actually is the same period. Like this different parts but same areas, talking about the kings and all the different. And this book was not meant to empower kings. Let me tell you that. Some people think the Bible is like for empowering the powerful, giving the powerful over the weak, over the masses. BS. This thing insults kings. This thing insults the priests and insults the kings. Who does this give power to? I am like, people, atheists argue that the Bible is about controlling people. Who does it give power to? The kings are idiots in this thing. They all fail God. The high priestess are all failures. The prophets all get that warn, you need to get back with God. You need to get back with. They all get persecuted and die and are losers, in that sense. And some of them are many of them are cowards, like the prophets. So who does this give power to? Now, throughout history, everyone has tried to control the Bible. I agree with that. I agree that man has tried to control the Bible, thusly controlling people. But the Bible itself does not give any of them power. I'll tell you that. When it was the first book ever printed. The reason the Protestants in Germany wanted to make a printer, the first book ever printed was the Bible. And why? To give it to the masses. I'm surprised they even got away with it. Protestants really wanted to get this Bible out to the people, and the kings and the Catholic Church were trying to stop it. And when it got out to the people, man, that's when freedom and stuff, like when people, oh yeah, that's when things really started to happen. Okay, so what's cool is this all stuff is all in here. So I'm just gonna kind of write it here. Joshua's here, right? Because he's the tough warrior guy after Moses. Then Judges. Now Judges is cool. Judges is freaky deaky, man. Judges is here, early Israel, and it's like David Lynch, Twin Peaks. Oh god, what's his cool one? Wild at Heart. What's the other one? The one, the first one he did that was really cool, the dark and sinister. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Judges is that, like, every story in there is a David Lynch film. It's hilarious. Samson and Delilah, this one king that sacrifices his daughter, the butchering. So read it that way, okay? David Lynch stories, So yeah, it's messed up. Ruth is a cool, where we get our romances from, man. Ruth. I'm telling you, Ruth stories. Okay, where do we get our Shakespeare from? All right, I'm going to write down these names because I kind of love the way I'm referring to this. Lynch, romance, Shakespeare. Dude, Shakespeare, totally. The Samuel books. Because Samuel is about kings, the first kings, King Saul, and then King David. And man, they're Shakespearean. I'm gonna tell you, that's all Shakespeare in there. Or you know, Shakespeare copied that, Romans copied that, Lynch copied Judges. Well, Lynch didn't copy Judges, but I'm just saying. But man, if you want some horror stories, read Judges. Like, create a story similar to that in dark and use Lynch type of filmmaking. That'd be wicked. Okay, Shakespeare is like the Samuels, which is the early kings, and then we got the Kings, and Chronicles, which is all kind of intermixed. And that what's cool about these is that, again, like I said, like most of the Bible, they cross-reference each other about how all the kings and all the failings, and Solomon is in there, King Solomon the Wise. And Solomon the Wise, by the way, is what I really like, is that, to me, Solomon is one of the reasons why I realized this Bible is not lying. This Bible is not trying to sell me on its religion. It's not trying to sell me, because Solomon, there's no way you or me as a crackpot con man would sell a religion where Solomon the Wise, whose writings are where? Let's see. Here, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, and those ones. All of those books are written by Solomon, or most of the stuff in there, I'm assuming, are written by Solomon. So those are books of wisdom. They're books of wisdom. And Solomon is the one that wrote them, but he was a complete failure. He failed God. Why would anyone want to write a con man book to fool you, where the wisest guy in it he turns pagan. He goes pagan, sexual, high priestess, concubines. I mean, orgies. I'm assuming. When I was into my porn, I was like, oh, I want to be like Solomon. I'm like, ooh, no, I don't. Or whatever. I would do another one on that one about porn and stuff. But man, Solomon, he went porn and perverted and pagany, forgot about God in his old age. Now I don't even know if he's in heaven. I don't even know. I'm not even sure. Like, maybe he is. I don't know what God did to hit with him, but or if he will, I don't know. But yet here he is writing all the books of wisdom that we read and go, oh yeah, I need to remember that. Oh yeah. And yet and it says in the Bible he freaking left God. So what kind of a sales pitch is that for a religion? To me, the only reason it was written like that is that it must have been true. Like, that must have been what really happened. Anyway, so Solomon is in there, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther. Yeah, those are the fall of Israel. Is these guys here? Stories. They're kind of cool too. Like, I think it's Esther. Esther's like a fairy tale, or like not a fairy tale, like a play, like a dark play, like a Shakespearean play, man, or whatever. So, okay, Job is actually placed somewhere around here. Job, to me, is a David Mamet play, like Waiting for Godot. It's like an off Broadway play. Waiting, you got to read it like that, like I always read it as if they're in a cheap theater, acting, or off Broadway theater, not movie theater, play acting theater, with the little goofy sets, and when they do God, they do the little thunder, goofy props. That's the way I envision it as I read it, and it's all a bunch of monologues of losers, Job, and then his friends, and so it's all a bunch of weird, quirky, and then finally God comes in at the end, and you're missing out, man. You are missing out. God speaks. God literally speaks. I mean, that, to me, that's the saddest thing about atheists. They don't even get to know. I know what God says, like how he talks. It's right there. It's right there in Job, and it's amazing, and I love it. And it's like watching the best movie ever, and you're trying to tell your friends, and their friends are like, I don't know about this Jedi thing and lightsabers. It sounds so stupid, or Sauron, with a ring. That's some dud. It's like, you're like, dude, you gotta watch this. You gotta But I'm talking about God. I'm talking about the God, the one that created everything and all of us. And I absolutely believe it, by the way. I have no doubts. I have doubts about myself, but I don't have any doubts about the Bible. So that's why I'm making these videos. Okay, so Waiting for Godot. That's what Job is like to me. It's hilarious. Psalms are just, poems. Oh, by the way, all of this stuff here, all of these prophets and minor prophets now, so those are all mixed in here. They're all mixed in, like in different areas and locations. So that's it. I mean, so actually that's it. It ends right, and it's really weird how it ends. It ends kind of like on a sort of a cliffhangery thing, like with Malachi and stuff. It just feels like it's not done yet. That's why we get the JC. But all these guys, just so you know, all of these prophets, and you kind of need to know by using the study Bible or by referencing like online. When you read each of those, you need to know like where they're at, in the story, so that you understand. They're most of them are very. I think I haven't been breathing. Most of them are very, what's the word? Like Psalms, like poetic, yeah. And Daniel obviously is a story. Daniel and the lions and all that. That's like that. That's at the end of Israel too, or when it's really has fallen, and then So these are all, these are all mixed in there. You just need to know where they go, where they fit in before you read each one. So and most of the Bibles too will have before you start one of them, they'll have like a little history, information about the guy, what period he was in. So but anyway, so that's my basic overview of the Bible and how to read it, how to get a grasp of it, how to understand it. And again, what does this all mean? Well, like I said, God is real. God is real is the story. I mean, I'm not a theologian, but it's about the story of God's relationship with us through Israel, proving to the world that He exists. And remember, today, let's go to 2020. 2020. Israel is the same Israel. It's the same God. It's the same book. Okay, no other religion can say that. From 1500 BC. All the gods of the Egyptians and all the other nations are gone. I mean, they've got new gods now. But Israel is the same. It's the same one. And yet it's so small. It's so tiny against the world. And the world hates it. I think America's the only one that really supports Israel. They got, they're constantly being attacked. The Jews are constantly being persecuted. And it's in the Bible they will. So God is real. That's what this whole Bible thing, or the Old Testament part of it, is all about. And and JC is when he comes in and like, now it's for the world, like the message. Anyway, so that's it. That's my little basic overview of the Bible, so you can get a grasp, or the Old Testament, just so you can get a grasp of what you're trying to read, what you're reading. And I'm sure I missed a lot of important issues and parts and all that. But I this is for the beginner, for you, for me, to just get the overview of understanding of what's going on in the Old Testament. All right, I hope that was helpful to any out there, anyone. Yeah, I'm just enjoying. God is real.